Welcome into the Michigan State Hockey Hub. We have a familiar guest, but who has not been on this year. Sam, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to be back. It's definitely been a long time coming, so I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk some Michigan State hockey today.
Now, those of you who do not know, Sam is from Minnesota, big Vikings fan. So I'm sure he's been pretty disappointed recently. But they had a great year. But we had to bring you on during the Minnesota week. A really tough team, and I think I saw some fans getting pretty upset about how the way the games went this weekend. I just think it's important to remember the perspective, right? This
Mhm.
is the best team Michigan State has seen by far. This is a top 2 team in the nation. I would not be surprised if they were, in the Frozen Four this season. And just to jump into the games, Michigan State Friday night, an embarrassing loss. There's no other way to put it. 0-8. Sam, just give us kind of your big picture takeaway from Friday night.
Well, from Friday night, I mean, I don't think anything really went well at all for Michigan State. Dylan St. Cyr ends up giving up, I think, five goals in 2 periods and gets pulled for Pierce Charleston in the third. I mean, I don't really think that St. Cyr was that bad. I think just
Yeah.
everything, like he was just left out to dry that entire game. And honestly, he was, I think, on Saturday in the end of the second period and third period too. Like he just had really no help there. Um, it was hard to even really draw any positives, I think, from Friday night. I mean, when you just look at a score 8-0, like that is just pure domination.
Yeah.
Um, I think David Gucciardi and Matt Baskel were the only two that sort of stood out to me. Um, somehow Michigan State gives up 8 goals, but those two defensemen weren't on the ice for any of those 8 goals, which I
Yeah.
thought was pretty amazing. And they provided some little offense, getting in on rushes and just putting pucks on net. Um, so I think that was kind of the lone bright spot there. But I think what you bring up a good point about just perspective in this on how Michigan State, I think this weekend and just even the Minnesota series that happened last month is kind of an indicator of like how big the talent gap really is. And like
Yeah.
Michigan State hockey, is Michigan State hockey back? Sure. I think you can maybe say that. This team has definitely improved from
They're trending in the right direction is how I'd put it, yeah.
absolutely, but it's still just an indicator of just how far they still have to go to be back at the top of the Big Ten.
Yeah, and to me, it's one of those deals that it's just important to remember where we were or where we are.
Mhm.
And 12 months ago right now, the team was in free fall, and no one had any hope in the coaching staff. There was really little reason to watch or excitement to watch. I think that's not the case anymore. I am fully confident in this coaching staff. I think they're headed in the right direction. They're already getting commits that are closer to the level of player that Minnesota has than the level of player Michigan State has had in the past couple of years. Therefore, they're trending in the right direction. It doesn't happen overnight, right? And I think a lot of people are really in that instant gratification phase. And I'm seeing so many people saying, like, oh, they were really good. It was all false hope at the beginning of the year. Like, you can't take that away from them. They were beating teams that they were not projected to beat. Like, they've already done that. That's already under their belt. Like, we've seen this team reach highs that I don't think either one of us or anybody really thought that they'd be able to reach this year.
Mhm.
Everything else is a cherry on top, right? It's small steps in the right direction. It's going to take time, but when you come off of an 8-0 loss on the road, it's really difficult to bounce back. That
Mhm.
game got away from them. Like, how do you come back the next night knowing the talent gap, seeing it firsthand, and be competitive? It's a tough thing to do. And for a while there, Michigan State did it, right? They came out of the gate, jumped up to a 2-1 lead, actually. And I wanted to walk through these goals. I believe this is the first goal of the game here. This is Carson DORWART, and a freshman, right?
Mhm.
The first two goals you'll see from Saturday's game were both freshmen, right? Players who are going to be around for a while. DORWART here, it's a pretty simple goal, right? Walk us through it, Sam.
I mean, yeah, it is just a pretty simple goal on the power play. Gets it on the wall and kind of just walks in freely and puts a pretty good shot on net. Um, I mean, Dorwart and Russell have just been fantastic this season, um, leading the team in points, both as freshmen. Obviously, played juniors together, and so they've just kind of just translated what they're producing there here to Michigan State. It was just kind of interesting though because of Justin Close, the Minnesota goaltender. I think there was I can't remember the stat, but like he had shut out Michigan State for something like 8 periods this season. So I think when they played it in Michigan State in East Lansing in December, um, Michigan State only scored in 1 period in those 2 games, and then obviously Friday night another shutout, and then first period Michigan State comes out, looks excellent. Were you watching that on Saturday night? I
Yeah.
mean, I think it was one of the best periods that they've played all season. And then when that final buzzer horns to or sounds to go to the first intermission and Michigan State doesn't have a goal to show for it, like you could almost kind of feel like that was going to come back to bite them badly.
Yeah, and on this goal, one thing that I noticed as well was a lot of times this year they've tried to feed it to 19 here, Mueller, right? And then he is kind of the distributor to get it towards the middle, towards the slot to Daniel Russell. So you can see the defense trying to take that pass away. The or yeah, a forward there. Then it's a power play, so they're trying to get in the passing lanes here. And Dorwart sees that and he sees, okay, I really don't have a great passing option, and he's patient with it. You have a good body in front there with Joshua, and he's
Mhm.
just able to get one pass. And that's probably one that close one's back, but hey, they all count the same, right?
Mhm.
And we'll head
Absolutely.
towards the second goal here. This one was a great play all around. And
Mhm.
and, and this is so many times over the past, I'll say since, the break where Michigan State has not played up to par, I'd say. We have seen this in Michigan State's I guess poorly towards Michigan State, where a turnover leads to a goal. That's been a common theme.
Mhm.
This is a turnover at center ice here, forced by Daniel Russell. He jumps in the play there. Dorwart again. Now, keep in mind, he just scored. You have to honor the shot here. The defense is trying to take away the pass. Close is, if you ask me, like Dorwart looks like he's in a good position to take a shot if he wants to. He's not selling
Mhm.
the pass too early here.
Mhm.
And let me see if I can. Perfect pass. You can see the goaltender moving side to side. And at that point, Daniel Russell is just ready to shoot, and he puts it in the back of the net.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts from this goal? I just love the turnover there.
Yeah, that was the big thing here is where, defense leading to offense where, um, you make a good play out at center ice with Daniel Russell, and he gets rewarded on the other end with a goal. I mean, it was essentially a 3-on-1 here with Joshua trailing behind. Um, I remember when the play was developing and the pass went across to Russell, I had a feeling for some reason that Justin Close was going to save it. Just kind of knowing Michigan State's luck and just, how Justin Close in Minnesota has played Michigan State over the last 3 years that, plays like that where they do all the right things but just couldn't finish. Like that was like what would happen all the time last year and 2 years ago, where just scoring was such an issue. Um, but it was definitely a really, I think, promising moment there for
Yeah,
Michigan State, and
and
it was.
credit to Jack or Joshua here. Um, it's not the most challenging play in the world to do what he did, but he was thinking fast, got it over to Dord, who got it to Russell.
Mhm,
2-1. We're in, getting near that second period halfway point, and I'm thinking, okay, this is impressive. It's
mhm,
impressive that they've been able to be resilient and to just come out flat. And I know you're thinking like, or a lot of people are probably thinking like, yeah, that's what they're supposed to do. Like, it's not that impressive. But when you get the shit beat out of you, sorry for my language, Friday night, it's hard to do. But I wanted to walk through this save here by Dylan St. Cyr. Let me see if
mhm,
I can pull it up here. Potentially save of the year. candidate here, at least for Michigan State, and the score is the same here at 2-1. A big moment in the game.
Uh-huh.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the horn sounded on this save, didn't it?
I don't remember. I don't feel like it did. Maybe it did.
Okay.
Just remember Mason Never standing in front of here, and he puts his arms up right there. I think, like, guaranteeing, like, feeling that that's a goal. And I think everyone thought that it was going to be like that's Matthew Nyes. He's one of the top players.
I thought it
And
was a goal. Like, I did not even realize that he saved it.
yeah, I think everyone just assumed it was going to be in the back of the net. Um, and then obviously they ended up reviewing it and thinking that his St. Cyr's glove may have crossed the line, and that would have just been a damn shame if, a save like that would have not counted because it was incredible. One of the, things that you don't see very often in hockey at all.
That save was so big for momentum, for keeping them in the game, for showing, okay, maybe there's a chance that
Mhm,
we can play with this team tonight. It kind of started to spiral out of control after that. I don't remember the exact sequence, but I think Daniel Russell took the penalty or had the major penalty then. And after that was the goal that was reviewed and all of that. Was that correct? Or was it the goal first and then Daniel Russell's penalty?
I think it was the Russell penalty was at the end of the period, so that
Yeah.
Minnesota scored twice before the Daniel Russell
Yeah.
major penalty.
That that Daniel Russell penalty was one that, you could say what you want about officials. The Big Ten officials have always kind of been an issue, in my opinion. It looked bad in real time,
Mhm.
especially because the player seemed to be injured on the play. I'm not one to really like complain about refs that much because I just don't see the point. But um, a big moment in the game. Daniel Russell's dad was pretty fired up on Twitter. He replied to me, and I saw him replying to, like, anything he could find about it, just fired up. Which I love that. But
Yeah.
there's also a play in the game where the officials um, thought it was a goal. Maybe the goal came off of its post. Right, the
Mhm.
puck was not in the net. Minnesota hits it into the net. Review. They say good goal. Michigan State then challenges for goaltender interference. No goaltender interference. Good goal. Just a wild, weird second period. That's why I can't even keep it all straight in my mind. Just so much happened
It was,
in
yeah.
that second period. What were your thoughts on that goal, no goal, review, challenge sequence?
I thought it wasn't gonna count, the goal, when they first reviewed it, but then once Michigan State challenged, I was like, "Well, I don't think they're gonna overturn it a second
Yeah,
time." So I'm not even really sure what the exact, specification of the
neither
rule
am I.
is. From what it was explained to me is that if it looks like if the puck is going into the net,
Yeah.
or has the intent, I guess you can call it, of going into the net, and then it gets knocked off, the net gets knocked off, it still counts. But I didn't really think that was the case.
That's where I stood too. So I knew that was, the standard rule, right?
Mhm.
If the goal comes off, but the puck is moving as if it would go into the net without any changing, someone touching or whatnot, it can be counted as a goal. In my opinion, the puck was not moving and it was on the line
That's
when the net came off. I'm sure that there will be some complicated explanation that won't make sense, but either way, it is what it is. Michigan State falls down. Um, Game starts to get away a bit. I do want to show this last goal, even though it didn't mean much. There's a minute 20 or so left in the game. You're down 2-6, but I just wanted this opportunity to talk about Cole Krieger, who scores yet again, who has been a really positive offensive player this season, and something that I'm not sure anyone really expected. He's always been a decent enough offensive player, but he seems to take it to a new level this season.
Yeah, he's second on the team with 9 goals behind Jagger Joshua, who is also, like, in that category.
Yeah.
I'm like, Where the hell did this come from? Um, but I mean, yeah, I don't really know what it is. I think he's just, like, got a shot that's working well for him. Like, even on this particular play, it wasn't anything all that particularly spectacular, but there was just a little bit of traffic and maybe a little bit of a screen in front of Justin Close there, and he just releases a good shot. I mean, honestly, this is only like the second time I've seen that goal because it was right at the end of the game when it was over, and I was like frantically writing, and so
Yeah.
like kind of like on another screen, not even watching, like, oh wow, I guess Cole Krieger scored. Um, but I do think it's an interesting to bring up, especially with that the goal that we were just talking about, the one that was reviewed and we thought we weren't really sure about it. Um, I didn't think Cole Krieger and Michael Underwood had a great series at all. Obviously, he ends up scoring there in kind of garbage time, but I've got it pulled up here on Friday night. Cole Krieger is -3, Michael Underwood -4, and I think that Krieger might supposed to be -4 because I think that the first goal when Minnesota scores 9 seconds into the game, um, I think that for some reason they didn't credit that Cole Krieger was on the
And
ice.
Cole Krieger was 100% on the ice
It
for
was like
that. In fact, he was explain what happened there, because okay, I don't want to put the video and I'll explain this. I could put video of all the negative stuff as well and break that down. That's just not my style. Like, I don't wanna sit here and just talk poorly about the players and break it down.
Mhm,
However, I wanna be fair, and I wanna point out when something goes wrong. I just don't wanna put it on video, right? Like, it's just not necessary, in my opinion, to have a terrible negative view of the season instead of I go
mhm,
more positive. That play Friday night, right off the faceoff, now it was a good play by Minnesota, don't get me wrong, but Cole Krieger was completely out of position. I
mhm.
don't know what he was thinking, and it led to a breakaway 9 seconds in, a goal. I wasn't even mad. I thought it was, like, hilarious. Um, it was upsetting, but, like, at the same time, like, "Oh my gosh, man, what the hell
Yeah,
just happened?" Just out
yeah.
of the gate, they just scored.
Mhm. Yeah, and it was just unusual because like, Krieger and Michael Underwood have been pretty solid this season, I think. Um, they're listed as the top pair, on the line chart every weekend, but, like, if you ask Adam Nightingale, it doesn't really mean anything. But they've been pretty reliable, I will say. So it was just a little unusual, I think, to see, um, that happen this weekend. And, I mean, Michael Underwood, um, veteran guy that transferred in this season, he's definitely not the fastest at all, and that's what happened, on Saturday night when Logan Cooley just kind of bursted right by him with the puck and then crashed into the net, and that's what led to the, um, goal that was reviewed
He
and
also had a turnover, Friday, I believe it was Friday night or Saturday, I don't remember which game, that led to a goal as well, right at his own blue line.
yeah, I don't remember if this is the particular one you're talking about, but there was a breakaway that Bryce Budzinski.
There's so many goals, man, we have no idea which one was which, we're getting confused.
I think the Brodzinski one, that was Saturday. Yeah, that was the one that gave Minnesota the 3-2
Yeah.
lead, in the second. It was a breakaway with Krieger and Michael Underwood on the ice. I think I can't it was hard to tell because when you're watching on the broadcast on just like a stream, you can't like, see obviously the whole ice and how like some of the plays are developing, but it almost looked like I don't know if they were changing or something, or if like Krieger had just gotten onto the ice because Michael Underwood, I think, was pretty far up ahead and left Krieger just kind of by himself, I think, um, on his own blue line.
Yeah.
Just Brodzinski kind of just takes a pass and goes right by him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
And you know what? Minnesota made a lot of this look easy. And like we said in the beginning, that's just a difference in talent right now. And you just got to tip your cap. I mean, that's just how it's going to be. And we just have to learn to accept that as anyone who's listening to this is a fan, I assume. And you're just gonna have to learn to accept like they just have better players right now, more skilled players. And we saw that in game one, there was a moment, I think it was near the end of the first. They were already up a couple of goals, and they were just like doing like what looked like globetrotters for like the last minute of the period, just like extra passes that were unnecessary and like kind of stylish passes. And I was like, oh man, this is gonna get really ugly, isn't it? But
mhm.
let's go ahead and jump into the Big Ten standings. That's not it. Here it is. Big Ten standings. At the top, and I would say the best team in the Big Ten. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. We had them in tiers in the beginning of the year. We had like Minnesota, Michigan, um, kind of in one tier, and that would be the class of the Big Ten. But Minnesota's jumped out to a big lead here, 43 points, 14-3 in the Big Ten. Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame, Michigan, Michigan State. Those are the next teams, only separated by 3 points. We have
Mhm.
Ohio State 27 points, Penn State 27 points, Notre Dame 26 points, Michigan 24 points, Michigan State 24 points. I saw a tweet that Michigan was like number 4 in the pairwise and number 5 in the Big Ten standings. It's just like crazy. And that's another thing to remember. This is the best conference in college hockey, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Look at the win-loss column for the Big Ten. Second place is 9-7. Sixth
Mhm.
place, 7-9. That huge chunk of teams is all flirting around that 500. That's how difficult this conference is. Wisconsin's the caboose here with 9 total points. Disappointing season for Wisconsin. How do you see this shaking up from here to the end of the season?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, and you can just tell there's just very little margin for error,
Yeah.
especially now with a month left in the season and only 3 points between 6th place and 2nd place. But I've been thinking about, like, if you were to just disregard these standings and try to rank these teams 1 through 7, what would it be? Like, what I think obviously Minnesota is number 1. They're probably number 1 in the country. But then after that it's just this all kind of mushed together. Personally, I think Ohio State is deserving of 2, but I
Yeah.
could see Michigan being in that argument. I put
And
Michigan.
Michigan would be, right? But they have not got the goaltending that we've
Mhm,
expected. They've had several injuries. They've had weird lineups due to COVIDs and stuff like that. So
mhm,
hard to say about Michigan. I think that they're probably the second most talented team. Like their 100% outcome is higher than Ohio State's 100% outcome, right? But that's not how it works. You don't get to play the 100% outcome game. So I could
mhm.
see Ohio State being 2 there as well. Penn State, what do you think of Penn State so far?
Frauds. I don't
Frauds, paper tigers, baby, just like the Vikings. How about Notre Dame?
I think they're just like my Vikings. I like, honestly, I think that Michigan State there is a very good argument that Michigan State's the 4th best team in the
Yeah.
Big Ten, in my opinion, because Michigan State easily could have won all 4 of its games against Penn State this season, blew a late lead, um, at Penn State the first night, and then kinda just warped them the second night. Then obviously, they come back here and pretty much it's a sweep. Um, Notre Dame, I'm not really a believer in much. They just don't really score a whole lot.
No, I
Play
don't
some.
think that they have the weapons to,
No.
in the Big Ten tournament, I don't think that they have the weapons to kind of push past any team above them.
Mhm. So I kinda see it Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio State, you can kinda flip-flop at 2, 3, Michigan State 4, Penn State 5, Notre Dame 6, and then Wisconsin's the way I see it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, a huge, huge weekend ahead against Notre Dame. We will have a preview show for that. Go ahead and follow Sam on Twitter. You can find his Twitter here, and I'll link it as well when I tweet this out. And the thing about Sam's Twitter is you're gonna get your typical game updates, but he's gonna have awesome stuff like this, which is giving you some percentages for the how the outcomes that could happen, and you'll be able to find all of his articles as well. Sam, anything else before we let you off the hook here?
No, I don't think so. Thanks for having me as always. It's always good to just talk some Michigan State hockey, and we'll see what happens in a month from now because it's pretty pivotal series I think coming up against Notre Dame. Then you get Michigan at home, and then in Detroit, which I think is kind of big that they don't have to go to Yost again this season, and then on the road at Wisconsin. So 3 series left, and we'll see where Michigan State lands in the Big Ten.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. That's going to do it for the Michigan State Hockey Hub. Go Green.